Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is an account that I promised to Guy Fawkes a long time ago, and I finally found it with the help of Adam Bird. I've looked and looked, and I could not find this, and it's because I'd worded the title wrong. I didn't put the Vultureman, I just put Creature of Malvern Hills, so it's my own fault. But it brings up an interesting subject that not only in the UK do we get reports of British Bigfoots and dogmen, we also get accounts, like America, of strange moth or bird like creatures. And there are a couple of them on the map. So I'll like to read a couple of them for you. Um, and I am no expert in this field. I do not know anything at all, or what you would even call a creature that was half bird, half man. Um, so I'm in the dark along with many others, but here are the accounts, and you ever think for yourself what you think that, might be happening. So the Vultureman of the Malvern Hills. An interesting sighting worthy of a second glance. Two couples who were hill walking had a terrifying experience with an odd creature, which was later described as a vulture or an eagle man. Here is the account in the words of a man who passed on the tale. Now, this went to the 40 forums, and it's also on the paranormal database. So it didn't come in directly to me. And the man said, "My brother told me that his friend had a terrifying daytime experience on the Malvern Hills with his wife and another couple. Apparently, the friend confronted a huge, large, vulture-like creature which started to follow the group. It was so terrifying his wife collapsed with fear. Now, my brother's friend is a big joker and a big bloke, and he can look after himself. So I asked him about his horror story, expecting him to tell me it was a joke, and to my surprise, he went pale. In fact, he went white. I could see the terror in his face as he retold the story. I have witnessed him telling that story on many occasions to other people, and I have prompted him to try and expose it as a joke, and he stuck by it 100%. And the fear in his face is still there. He goes pale. I've always expected him to say, 'Ha ha, fooled you,' but he never has. It must have had an impact as they took the wife to the local pub and she was out cold. The police were called, but were not interested. I asked my friend to explain what he saw in more detail, and he said, 'I saw the creature in the distance, and I went closer to investigate. My friends followed, but kept their distance. As the creature came closer, I could see in an even closer vicinity. I was terrified by what I saw, even more so when the creature began to move towards me. My friend ran back as fast as he could and was alarmed to see the creature following, from a distance, which must have seemed very close when in a state of terror. Now, this could very well be a misunderstood wildman encounter, or this could be a creature in its own right. And as you'll see from the map, this is not the only creature here in the UK described as human and bird-like at the same time. And we also have the Owlman of Mawnan, which most people will probably have heard of. And Mawnan Smith is an old village that lies to the west of Rosemullion Head, just a few miles south of Falmouth in Cornwall. And Marwan Wood is one of the most notable features of that area. And it's become famous around the world following reports of a mysterious Owlman, a weird half-bird, half-human creature reportedly spotted there on several occasions. One of the earliest reports goes back to 1926, when the Cornish Echo reported that two boys were chased by what was described as a very large, ferocious bird. The lads took cover behind a steel grating, but the bird-like beast ferociously continued to try to reach them through the grid. 50 years later, in 1976, two witnesses described an abnormally large bird resembling a giant owl flying over the tower of the 13th century parish church of St. Mawnan. Teenagers camping in the wood nearby reportedly heard strange hissing sounds and saw what they described as an owl as big as a man. It had burning red eyes and strange claws, shaped like two blacksmith's pincers. There were further sightings 2 years later when the witnesses added that the huge bird-like thing was a silvery grey colour. And then in 1989, a sighting by two more people described the Owlman as being at least 1.5 metres, so 5 foot tall. And the next report from an American visitor in 1995 described sharp claws emanating from the Owlman's vast wings. But that is not the only report that's out there like that. Called Heselden, which is, I think, on the northeast coast, if I remember correctly. And this was written by a gentleman called Geordie Dave. And it wasn't sent to me, it went to the John Downs of the Fortean realms. And Dave is, I think what he's trying to do because it's a forum post, so it's quite confusing. I think he's trying to combine Mothman and our Owlman as the same creature, and he could very well be right, I don't know. And it says, I've written up this story because I think the people concerned are telling the truth, but you never know. An interesting story has come to my attention about a possible Mothman, Owlman type sighting that warranted closer inspection. I don't know what to make of it, but this is what I've learnt so far. I've had to change the names of the people concerned for reasons I will explain later. On the outskirts of Seaham, on the northeast coast of England, there is a pub called the Pemberton Arms, known to everybody as the White House, because for as long as anyone can remember, it has been painted white. A married couple in their early 40s, I'll call them Phil and Kate, had gone there on a Saturday evening, 10th of October, but it doesn't state what year, to watch a live band. Now, I don't know if the band they had wanted to see had not turned up or what, but they decided to leave early, just after 10 p.m, they tell me. And because it was unusually warm for that time of year, they decided to walk back into town and have a few beers there and finish off the night. They left the pub, turned right and walked down the lane that would lead them to the well-lit main road into town. As they got to the end of the lane, something caught their eye in the field next to the fence. At first, they thought it was a shire horse because of the size, but it was definitely not a shire horse. Phil and Kate both told me that it was a man shaped at least 7 feet tall, jet black with piercing red eyes, and it just stood there, motionless. Phil and Kate looked in disbelief for about 15 seconds. Then it let out a scream like a fox, before disappearing straight down like it fell down a well or a trapdoor. Phil and Kate ran like hell onto the main road until they stopped near the recently built water treatment plant, exhausted and out of breath. Phil tried to phone a taxi, but found his mobile phone was dead, although it was working fine back at the pub. So half running, half walking, and constantly looking about them, they got back home, terrified out of their wits, unable to understand what they had just witnessed. 3 weeks later, when they felt able to talk to me, they did. I've known this couple for 20 years, and I don't think it's a hoax. They're very upset that this has happened to them, and they did not want to talk about it to anyone for fear of ridicule. They're angry and confused. Why us is the question they ask the most. They want to put it behind them. They only came to me because they remember me talking a few years back about my visit to Lochmara in Scotland to look into the sightings of a creature there, and so thought I may be able to help them. But I don't really know what to tell them. Other than the American Mothman, I'm unaware of any other accounts in the UK. Well, this was written quite a long time ago, so obviously other accounts have come in since then. So that's just a small selection. So, as promised, Guy Fawkes, there is your Vultureman account. And I will try, I'll contact the guy at the Paranormal Database, and I'll contact Carl Schuker and Jonathan Dowles, and I'll see if I can try and get back to the original witness and we can find out anything else about it. Shouldn't be that hard, but we'll give it a try and see what happens. So until next time, thank you very much. Good night.